So, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. This is my first StreamYard podcast. So, you're going to have to forgive me for being a terrible at this. But poor Annas, she actually has volunteered to do this. The poor girl. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm doing really well for a guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. My experiment, we'll call you. Well, if you want like an experimental number,
Test sample A.
Yeah, test sample A. So test sample A, ladies and gentlemen, test sample A, the one and only Annas Eskander. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did get that right. Thank you very much.
I always feel bad because if I'm. See, my name is Josh.
Yeah, I was gonna say your last name again.
Pantelleresco.
Okay, thank you. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, it can be. So when I was growing up in school, my all-time favorite two were Cantel Amigo, which was a telephone company at the time. I thought, okay, that was creative. I got to give it that. Pants to the Rescue was my most common one. Right? That one, and every place I moved, somebody came up with that. But my all-time favorite, though, grade 6, guy was trying to say my name. I still remember this. His name was Rob McLean. I'm sorry, Rob, I'm picking on you. You got to live with that. Josh Penta, Josh Alphabet. Everybody knew who I was. What are you going to say to that, right? I mean, what are you going to say to that? Other than, let's go, let's do this, let's have some fun. Basically, it's just you just got to embrace it. You got to embrace all the weird stuff.
Absolutely. I've been called all sorts of names, and I get to a point where I don't let it bother me anymore. I just find it amusing when I sit there and watch people struggle.
Right. Now it's like this.
Why make it easy and change my name? I'll just sit here and watch you struggle.
Yeah. So you know what? I have one rule. If they ask me for help, I'll help them. Right. Because at least you never pick on somebody that's actually trying to understand or actually
or trying to be respectful.
Yeah. You never pick on that. But if someone's trying to figure it out all on their own, it's like, oh, gee, let's see where this is gonna go. Like, and it's like I'm fishing. Like, it's such an obvious bait hook. My all-time claim to fame, though, with my name is this: it was used in a spelling bee twice. Once as a bonus word, once as a tiebreaker.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to. Like, I was in the spelling bees, but it wasn't my tiebreaker because that wouldn't have been fair. But
I mean, I've had nicknames. I've had Annas Balls or Eskander the Salamander.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, it does because it's like Anna with an S, so people end up saying Annas, and I'm like,
oh no.
I was like, no, think of the letter N and the letter S. You pronounce those two letters, it's N-ness, so it just makes it a whole lot easier when I explain it like that. And we've gone down.
I did just think of a terrible nickname for you, and I'm sorry.
I've had a boss call me Anus before, and I was really shocked. I thought, I was thinking how much a lawsuit it was going to cost.
Was that on purpose?
He was just trying to be funny and charming, and I was not impressed at all.
I have to admit, in my younger days, I've said like some pretty crude comments to women about their ass. I never actually called them that, though, because that always felt a little too far. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where just like, that probably isn't going to get me anywhere. I mean, the compliments on the ass don't get me anywhere either. So,
absolutely. I mean, he was trying to be funny, but
what I was thinking of is now to see the nest reminded me of a video game. See, I'm a video game guy, and I'm like, okay, so there's this all-powerful character named Ness.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I was thinking about that, and then there's also the NES is in the Nintendo, so I had like these weird Nintendo jokes in my head for a second.
You're not going to call me Snez.
Yeah. It's like, it was there, and I was like, no, I better not, because I just got to know you, and
it's all right. I'm thick-skinned by now.
I get that, but again, if I'm friends, you know how you can tell a true friendship. True friendship, it really comes down to two things: can you steal somebody's food? If you can steal their food,
And they won't be offended.
Well, the thing is, good friendship always requires you. It really comes down to how weird you can get with the people you're around. That's really what it comes down to. Like, all the fancy bullshit.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what it comes down to. I don't know you well enough to get weird with you yet. I mean, that's just what it comes right down to, right? I don't know. I literally just met you 3 nights ago. So it was, or is it 2 nights ago? Like, it wasn't, it's either way, not very long. So I'm going to be polite to you because, and honestly, you're incredibly talented too. So, I mean, I'm
very kind of you.
Yeah. So I'm going to be very nice to you because, 1, I'm trying to make a good impression, and 2, I don't know you well enough to be weird yet. When we get to that point, maybe I will start doing stuff, but then again, you might let me know.
No, it's good to start off, sort of with a good impression, and then later on we can dive off a cliff.
yeah, exactly. That's it. I mean, at least let me get to know you a little bit before you jump off a cliff. Like that's kind of like how I do. I mean, that I may be old fashioned that way. I don't know.
No, I think that's a good approach because you don't want people to think that's all you are, and I mean, I've made the mistake of acting because I can be a bit of a fool and a bit of a comedian, and I've made the mistake of starting off on that foot, and then people automatically just think that's all you are, and don't have the respect for you that you deserve. So you start off good, and then like I said, and then we can just descend into anarchy.
That's right. That's totally like that. That should be the goal. Like, pure
exactly
anarchy at that point. No, it's interesting. Like in this time, I decided to quit my job and become a freelancer, right? And so I'm just like, it hit me though. I was an idiot. I thought I cursed myself for being a little bit of an idiot because I realized like freelancers' biggest challenges was to have a niche. I already have a niche. I make an ass of myself with people all the time. I'm good at it. They even gave me a reward for it. So I mean, I have the skill for it, and it didn't really occur to me until yesterday. Oh my God, I can take this to the next level. Kind of why we're doing it like this, actually. It's me getting the the bug. Thank you very much. I feel I should give you a big giant thank you just for that alone. But it's I find the biggest thing the biggest issue going to your point is the hardest struggle I think for anyone starting out is getting taken seriously because a lot of people just, especially your friends. It's actually ironically it's your friends that dismiss you the most. Because they know you. They know who you are, and they've seen all of you, and then it's like at some point you got to go, no, I'm serious. This is the thing. This is what I'm doing. Yeah. And it takes a while sometimes for some of your friends to get it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I had a moment with my dad, and when I told him that I was going to be developing my script into a comic, he got all really nostalgic and used to he told me the stories about how when he was growing up, the enjoyment he had, going to the shops and getting the latest comic. And you could see, it really brought back sort of his younger years. And I really felt sort of that was a really lovely moment with him. And I thought, great connection here. So then I think it was about a couple of months, 2 months ago, I think it was around the time when I had the comic on the Indiegogo campaign. It was starting out, and he was like, so how's it going? I was like, yeah, it's going really well. I've almost got like 300 people, and this is how much it's gone. And he's like, you know what? I didn't actually think you were going to even sell one, let alone 300. And I thought, oh, great, thanks for the vote of confidence.
well, for me, it's funny because I did a comic way back in the day. It was a big victory for me because it wasn't so much. The final result was the final result. The journey for me to getting there from start to finish was such a life roller coaster for me that when I finally got it out there, it was like, oh my gosh. But I also did incredibly well. Like I did Calgary Comic Con. It was my only product. So I'd say, hey, it's my comic. I sold like 50 of them. It was like for a first time.
Wow,
it was like,
that's really good.
Yeah, no, it makes you feel good, and I kind of kicked myself because I've done books since, but now I'm teaching myself how to draw. This is the scariest thing in my life I've ever done. But I'm like,
I was going to say kudos to you for pushing yourself to do it, because I started off as somebody who draws, and somebody who now I do everything by computer. I draw garment sketches, and I keep thinking to myself, I know I was really good at drawing. Why am I not drawing? You know, like I used to do life drawing. I was really good at it, and I can draw. So why am I not doing it? And it just feels like I never have the time. I'm either being a mom or doing the housework or sorting out stuff, you know, managing a house sort of scenario. So I'm really glad that you're pushing yourself to do that.
Well, it's I mean, they're going to be like, so my comic script is 16 pages. It's mostly words for the first 10 pages. Like I figured out a way to actually, because it's about facing your deepest fears. Like honestly, I truly believe this for most of us. It's not failure that scares us, it's success. It's because when you have success, it creates an expectation for yourself. Yeah. And once you have that, it's like, oh shit, can I top it? Can I be different? Can I be better? Whereas if you do nothing, well, no one expects anything out of you. And that's easy. And honestly, I mean, you can go through life like that if that's what you want to do. But I don't feel you've ever find out what you're truly capable of when you do that. Right? I don't know. Like I'm giving myself 2 issues essentially. One, like the issue I'm cheating with, kind of, sort of. And then there's one issue I'm just going to try it. Good, bad, or indifferent, whatever the result is. I've done it. I've done it. And you know, and because, you know, just like, especially now with everything that's happened, it's like, you know what? Life's too short. Life's just way too short. If I don't do the things I feel compelled and called to do, then what am I doing here? Yeah.
I think I don't want to be lying on my deathbed thinking, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. I want to try everything that there are so many things I want to do, and I'm just, it's like a bucket list, even though I'm not dying or anything. But I think it's sort of when you know, I've had my husband pass away, and that really made me feel how fragile life is. And I ended up, because of him, you know, dying so young, I just felt like everyone should have a bucket list, no matter what situation they're in, and, you know, sort of get to do all the things that they wanted to do. Like my mum told me, try out a boat cruise. So I took a cruise to the Bahamas. And I was just thought, yeah, okay, I've done that now. I'm never going to do it again. But
yeah, well, but you tried it, right?
Yeah, I tried it. So I'm the type of person, well, I'll try anything once. Unless I know that it's so not me, I will definitely sort of say, yeah, no, I'm not going to like it. But there are some things, like I want to go skiing. I've never skied. I've skied on a dry ski slope, but I've never actually done it in, you know, sort of actually gone to a ski resort. And that's something that's in my bucket list as well. So yeah, like the comic was just something, I think it's like you were talking about sort of the fear of success and sort of staying in your comfort zone and not doing anything. For me, I'm torn between the frustration of not getting anything done and wanting to get so many things done, and the sort of the fear of if something works, or how do I progress? How do I top it? Like you said. So I totally get that. I think it's part of being a creative. You do want to produce all the time. And if you're not producing, it can get a little bit...
It's frustrating, right? It can be
frustration. I do feel the frustration a lot, especially when... Sometimes I think lately I've noticed that I have a problem with my patience. I want things done fast. If I'm not doing something fast enough, I can't, you know, I get all jittery. So yeah, and I think
I want to ask you a question, but I want to promise me before I ask this question that you don't throat punch me. I don't want to be throat punched. Okay,
you're at a safe distance.
It is, yeah, but you, like, I get the impression with you that if you had a grudge, you could carry it. So I want, like, you know.
No, it's all right.
Right? So I just want to be. How old are you? And I'm asking that.
Oh, how old am I? Oh, don't worry about that.
Oh no. give me a range. Like you don't have to give me the reason I'm because number one, you're probably going to look younger than you actually are. I actually almost going to bet money on that. But number two, okay, so I'm 39.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 in less than a year. And one of the things I've noticed is two things have happened as I've gotten older. I give no shits. I give less shits every year.
Yes.
Right. I've hit that point in my life where I already know this. When I'm 80 years old, I'm going to be skydiving on a beach somewhere, probably hitting on a woman half my age and not giving a time. That's me. That is totally going to be me at 80 years old. Right. If I'm not married, someone hasn't tamed me at that point, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to probably be like doing that. Or I'm going to be on a trampoline. I might need a nap afterwards. I might need a nap.
You might nap on the trampoline.
Yeah, you know what? That's totally fine too. I have no, again, you're at 80, you're bulletproof. That's how I look at it. Because really, what can anyone say to you? You're going to die.
I'll give you a bit of a riddle as to my age. I was born the year before Elvis died, and I actually share my birthday with Elvis. So we only shared one birthday before he died.
So you definitely are look younger than you actually. No, I know how old you are, and I'm not going to say it to the audience. Again, that throat punch. I don't want that throat. No throat punch. I don't want it.
No, it's fine. I was going to tell you my age, but then I thought it'd be more fun to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. What I'm doing, as you get older, I find there's the real challenge you have to keep sometimes, because nothing's built overnight, and it is you have to remember at least a little patience. You have to remember it, because it's the older you get, the more you recognize that time is fleeting. Time always is, right? You recognize that, and the older you get, the more aware of this you are.
Yeah.
You want to get to it as quickly as you can. The reality of the situation is things take the time they take. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying this from a sage advisor. I mean, I have my moments. He's like, "Come on, you stupid!" Like now, right? And I do have that, but I mean, it's one of those things where, you go in there, you do what you do, and you have to just be like, you know what, grant me that serenity prayer. Grant me serenity to handle things, let go of things I can't control, and have the patience to do the things I need to do, right? And I think as we get older, that becomes more and more a thing. Now we understand very quickly when people are wasting our time a lot quicker. You hear it, so you can hear it so much faster.
Oh, absolutely. If I'm in a shop and I can see that, I'm standing in a long line, and I look at what I'm buying, and I'm thinking, is this worth standing in the queue for? I think one time it was like an item of clothing, and I was like, hell, I am not going to wait in this long line. I walked out. So I dropped, I put it back down, and I walked out. Yeah. But I do, yes, as you get older, and I think this is what my problem is, and especially having sort of lost someone close to me, that you do feel like time is precious, time is fleeting, and then you're constantly panicking. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was trying to figure out what's my problem, because I'm constantly fidgety, and for instance, I'm working on my portfolio to go back into my career to do the fashion, and they won't let me interview for any job until they see that my portfolio is all up to date. And it's really frustrating. I can't do one thing at a time. Like in a day, I have to probably do 5 different things. One is reading a novel, writing a novel, and doing a little bit of maths, because I want to sort of revise. I have a certificate in advanced maths, and I want to sort of revise it because it just keeps my brain working. What else? Sort of getting some exercise, because this lockdown is making me, it's a choice. Either I lose weight or I go up a size. I refuse to go up a size. So it's just constantly all these little things. And I thought, you know what I'll do bite-sized chunks of, of like 5 different things in one day. But then on top of that, I've got kids that I need to make sure they're fed and maintained, and also I'm trying to get them to keep up with their studies because they're so behind. So
I'm in a weird spot with kids in schooling this year. I'm not trying to limit learning here. I just think this desire to try people to keep on pace with school is kind of insane right now. I actually think it's a weird insanity because why? Because this is an unprecedented time, and everybody is. It compiles I feel for teachers in particular during this time because they're doing 3 times the work. What honestly should have been done. This is what should have been done. And I think it's an indictment on us all that we did not protest like this. We should have paid the parents and the teachers to stay home. Is what we should have done. And they said, you know what? Don't worry about it, because other than maybe the people in high school that are about to graduate or the people in college, it really doesn't matter really right now. It's a systematic process. I just feel like taking that system with us home on top of everything else we're doing right now is crazy. I'm
it's not so bad now because they are back at school, but it's just a bit of support because I don't want to see them struggle when they're getting their lessons. But when it was during the lockdown and we were getting sent home learning, I was with my daughter, she was really self-sufficient. With my son, who's now 7 years old, it was like tearing my hair out.
Well, yeah,
but hated it.
Of course he did, because it wasn't
like domestics all the time. I'm sure somebody was about to call social services from the amount of screaming.
Yeah, but it wasn't fair to him. It wasn't fair to you. It wasn't fair to any. It was fair to nobody.
I'm not a trained teacher. But now I've realized the way to get kids motivated is to offer them pocket money in response to how many units.
Bribery. That's smart.
Bribery works.
No, it works. Hey, listen. It works.
It's amazing the enthusiasm that gets involved when they have credit to buy a new skin for Fortnite.
Yes. Hey, listen. Look, I'm 39 and I do things for money. I am that guy. That's
absolutely
right. That's a big part of that's life, right? And hey, listen, if I know I'm getting rewarded for my time and my efforts, I'll do it. And that's the other thing too. Going back to our earlier topic about we have a measurement of what our effort is actually worth. We have a better idea of it as we get older too, right? So if I'm dealing with somebody that doesn't really care, right? It just doesn't care at all. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to deal with them because it's a waste of my time. They don't want it. Therefore, they don't want me there. They just want to do whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not their keeper. They're grown ass men, women, even children. They're not my kids. Right? Why am I worried about this? This isn't there isn't anything I can do about it anyway. Right? So
I think as you get older you realize that you don't need to be close friends with everyone. You need to have a handful of people who are people who add value to your life, who don't suck the life out of you. I've realized that there's no point being around negative people because they just want to bring you down to their level because they're not happy until somebody is with them in their misery. I can't. Yes, misery loves company. I can't handle that, so I keep my distance from them. There are also people who I feel that they're like vampires, where no matter how much you share with them, they never reciprocate. They never tell you anything about their life. You could ask them how they are, and they'll be like one-word answers, and then you try to initiate a conversation with them, but it's such hard work because you feel like you're getting nothing from them. And then at the same time, it's like, oh, come on, let's go out for a meal. Let's go out for coffee. Let's do this or do that. It's like, why? Because I'm getting nothing from being friends with you. And I realized afterwards that sort of this particular person, they'd started a business and they wanted to kind of be buddies with all these people to try and generate more business, and that's all I was to them. And I just thought, you know what, I've supported you enough. Your business is on its way. It's now paying for itself. You don't need me anymore. And I no matter, it's ironic because when I launched the comic, I thought, let's see what they do. Would they? At the end of the day, it's just a comic. It doesn't cost the earth, especially compared to how much I forked out for this person. And this person didn't buy a comic. It didn't show me the same level of support that I had shown them for their business. But they were kind enough to send me a sample of their product. And I was like, like, thank you. Yeah. You're so clueless.
I dated someone like that, actually. And I realized it really quickly. Part of that was they were naturally introverted. Part of that was again, they're not, and when they have that natural inversion, and there was an anxiety they carried with them. And I realized that after the fact, and that was part of it. The other part of it is, there's a relationship aspect to, like, love's a funny thing. Love is actually a very funny thing. And like, unlike anything else, it's not, the more you give, right, and the more it's reciprocated back, the bigger it becomes. That's how it works, right? Love is one of the only things in the world universe that works like that. So the person that receives but doesn't give back is actually cutting it off at the source, because I think there's that paranoid belief that if they share, this is my theory, I don't know if this is right or wrong, that if they share, they're going to lose whatever it is they have. That isn't how love works. Love works like, I like you, I respect you, I think your work's awesome, and I say this, and you say the same to me. Well, now we've built a bond, a connection, and possibly a friendship, right? Then eventually we can get weird with each other, which we already talked about at the very beginning of the episode, right? But that you build those bonds by sharing. Like we don't build anything truly everlasting in this life. Anything in terms of friendships, people, connections. There has to be an equal give and take. Right, or if not an equal, and if it doesn't, and by equal doesn't mean it has to be the exact same thing, but there has to be sharing, there has to be communication.
It has to feel like if it's a small gesture can go such a long way. And like you said, I think you're right that they're so scared of giving anything of themselves away. They don't want to open themselves up to ridicule but I've poured my heart out and been ridiculous, and it's like an invitation to kind of come and share with me. And then I got bombarded with this criticism that apparently I talk too much about myself. And then it's like, but I've asked you how you are so many times and you don't respond. So how am I to blame for that? Maybe I'm to blame for oversharing.
No.
But there was a reason for it.
So let's see. My impression of you, we've talked for almost 30 minutes. Actually, a little bit over 30 minutes, because I was making a fool of myself off the air too for about 5 minutes. So a little over 30 minutes. This is the impression I got of you, just based on our brief little conversation here. You're a single mom, works her ass off, right? She has 2 kids, at least 2 kids, right? Yeah. Maybe, right? 7 and probably 10? I mean, I got
11. Well, she'll be 12 in January. Yeah.
Happy birthday, right? Happy birthday, Anna's daughter. Right? So, but
we're not there yet, actually.
No,
still got a few months to go. But
well, I somehow get the feeling I'm not going to be able to say happy birthday to her, so I'll just do it here. Happy birthday, Chris, and Merry Christmas to the Eskimos. So
you get it all in. Happy Halloween.
Right?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, you might celebrate other holidays. We'll just say Merry Xmas. But anyways, right? You have a background in design. You've produced your own work. You're a self-starter. You've probably done your own business stuff. You're looking to get back to work probably because again you have kids. If it was probably just you, you wouldn't care. But because you got kids, you're taking care of them. So you're a responsible, driven, goal-orientated adult that is proud of everything she has accomplished to this point and should be. So of course you're going to talk about yourself. You have what they call a healthy ego, and you need it because you've had to push yourself out there in a world that going back, I'm starting my freelance career. The biggest thing I'm doing, I've learned about this is that you have to prove your worth, not just to other people, but to yourself.
Yeah.
You've done that. And because
I can be a very harsh critic of myself.
Well, sure.
To the point where I'm really, really harsh, and sometimes I have to remind myself to be a bit more forgiving, because I hold myself to a higher standard, but then I have to kind of backtrack and say, compare myself to others. Does this product sit well? And
okay, interesting.
No, but I, like I said, I am proud of what I've achieved. I think sort of I'm so ambitious that it's like you kind of, okay, what next? I've got to do the next thing. It's like a hit, like you've done this, right? What have I got to do next? Sort of, it's like I get a buzz off achievement. It's a bit like Jane Austen. All the characters were sort of the female characters. Their sense of worth comes from what they've achieved in life, what they've learnt, whether it's languages or playing an instrument or things like that.
Well, it's the origin of self-esteem for me, like honestly, is what we've achieved. It's what we've proven to ourselves what we can do. That's where self-esteem comes from more often than not. So the biggest issue a lot of us have when we start is to believe in ourselves enough to go for it and let whatever happen. And it's okay to fail. But when you do it's okay to fail. It's okay that it didn't work out. It's okay that you tried this. It's okay that it went the way it went. If you did everything you could in this situation. And that's all any of us can do when we start. You've hit that point in your life, though, where I've done this. I've done that comic. I've done that. I've built my own fashion empire. I've been a single mom for however many years you've been a single mom. And you've striven, you've put your life, you've done a lot of difficult things. And you've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
So you have a healthy ego. I mean, sure, you judge yourself probably harshly in the sense when you're in the middle of the work, because you know that you could always be better. And I don't necessarily, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, it's not about, this is going to sound really weird. I understand why perfection would be so boring. It's a good ideal, but the reality is I don't want to.
The reality is that perfection is very difficult to achieve, and I've been recently taught that I've got to work on the 80-20% ratio. Do I have an 80% satisfaction rate here? And it's like, yes, okay, then, because otherwise it affects your productivity. If you're striving for perfection, you'll get nothing done. And that's what was happening. Now it's like, no, is it 80% there? Yes. Okay, let's move on.
Well, I also changed my premise too. This is the premise I've changed. I don't seek perfection anymore. I seek, am I better than I was last time? I seek change.
Absolutely.
I seek change, not perfection.
Yeah.
Because the moment you hit perfection, you don't change anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's like, where do you go from there?
Well, you're dead. I mean, that sounds really like that. A perfect world is a dead one because there's no growth, there's no change. I want to grow. I don't want to be perfect. I want to be better.
Yes.
There's a big difference between them. Perfection is great in that it's an ideal we can shoot for somewhat. and it's cool that sometimes we come really close to that mark. There's some days when you're on whatever it is you're doing, like you're just in that moment, you're in that place, and it's like, damn, right? This is really, really good. Damn, this is really, really, really amazing.
Yeah.
And those are great highs. And then there's some days that you go in there and nothing works right. You don't know what the hell. Like let's say, like you're in that, but that's the process, right? That's the whole process. If I had a great time every time, right, I eventually would get bored of the high.
Yeah,
I don't want to be bored.
It's no longer challenging.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that it's all about when I do something, I think, okay, next time will be better. I've learned from this experience, and I've got to move on to the next stage. But it's not about seeking perfection. It's about making things better and getting better at doing something. So that's why I'm thinking issue 2 is definitely going to have to. I know how to make it better. Even better, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I did my first narration for an audiobook about a month ago now. Right? It was great. It made my podcasting, interviewing. Now I'm even harder on myself than I was before because now I know way more things than I used to.
Yeah.
But at the same token, it's like, because that's great. I now know ways I can make myself better. At the same token, though, what I've learned is, right, though, is sometimes, even though I know things are going to be better, sometimes I'm still going to screw up. And that's okay. The objective is, okay, what can I do to be more in control of my situation so it's more about my efforts? And if I give 100% effort and it sucks, I can live with that. Because I did everything I knew how to do. It just did not work out the way I was hoping it would work out.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a big enough man to go cry in the corner later. Right. I'm a big enough man to do that. Because it's like, you know what? At some point, it's just like, you did what you could. Like you have to accept this circumstance that I went back home because my family's in one spot. And it was just like, did I want to spend the whole time and kind of by myself in the middle of nowhere for me? Because I hadn't really started to connect with people out where I was, because I was busy wrapping up my time in the previous situation I was going to do. And it was like, okay, do I stay by myself and kind of hope it all magically works out, or do I go home? I chose to go home. So I haven't been in full control of my circumstances for pretty much the whole time I've been here. So I've been kind of just making the best of it, good, bad, and indifferent. Sometimes there are some days I just look at it and go, like, I'm literally like this. Like, if I had a little bit more on some things, it would be better. But I also realized, like, really, there's nothing else I can do. I can't be mad at the effort I made. The only thing I can do is get myself into the position eventually where I'm in more control and I can do the right things I know how to do now. And that's kind of where I'm at, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. So it sounds to me like all artists struggle with this perfection thing. That's my answer. That's my answer to it right now.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe when I'm older / wiser, I'll have a better answer for you. I don't know.
I think sort of the more experience you get, the more you become better at what you do, and you're less fixated on perfection, because you feel like you've attained sort of that level where you think, okay, it's you're kinder to yourself, because you've become, because I think it's all a rite of passage. When you're starting out, there are some things that are still new. You're still on a learning curve, and as you progress and you get better and better, you will reach that point where your skill is at a point where you feel like you can do anything, and you're not so fixated on perfection, because your skill is at a level where the sky's the limit. It's just all about producing what's in your head. That's kind of where I would like to be at some point. At the moment, I'm on the learning curve. So
you're somewhere between. So I heard this once on a podcast by a gentleman by the name of Robin Black. There's 4 stages to mastering something. There's unconsciously incompetent, which is the guys that think they absolutely know everything. Consciously incompetent.
Yeah.
When you don't know squat.
Yeah.
Consciously competent. You can do it, but you gotta constantly put your mind on it to make it work.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I'm at with this.
Yes. I feel that.
yeah, right. And then there's the 4th. And this is when you have to move on to something else, which is unconsciously competent. When you don't have to think about it anymore. But when you get to the point where you don't have to think about it anymore and you can just do it and you sleep, you need to move on.
Yeah.
It's not because you can still do it, especially if you'll get something out of it. But there also comes a point in your life too where you got to be like, okay, here's the deal. I'm not growing here anymore. I've hit that plateau of where I can grow here because I can get better and I will always get better. But at this point, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have necessarily, and unless I really, really love it, I'm not sure I'm going to have the discipline to get better at it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It just reminds you just described my career. And I'm starting to think maybe I should change my career.
Honestly, if you're at that point in your life where you're not challenged by it, you should. Maybe you don't walk away right away because you have kids.
Yeah.
But you should be looking at it because
the way I'm looking at it is that it's a means to an end. It's what makes the things I want to do possible. So, for instance, I would like to sort of pursue the comic. Sort of like I need to sort of fund it a bit more to get it moving, and sort of going back to work would help me make that possible. It will get me that sort of extra income to make all these little projects that I have possible. And once I've got all these things moving, I'll probably quit.
No, you will quit. I have no doubt in my mind.
So we're going back to money being the motivator here. And to be, I had a job back in, it was 20. What happened was I had a job and I was 3 months pregnant, and people were losing their jobs, and I kept quiet about it. I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait until they tell me whether I still got my job or not. And obviously the whole department had been made redundant. So on that very same day, I announced I was pregnant, and you should have seen the look on their faces. We've just let go of a pregnant woman, but they kept me on sort of for, I think it was another 3 months, just to, I don't know, maybe they felt guilty, I don't know, but they still needed a little bit of work doing, and they felt like I was kind of the best candidate to do it.
You also kind of put them in a very bad spot. You did.
Probably. No. See the look on their faces.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting anything, but they didn't know. They didn't know. So it was a genuine, and the whole department was let go. So, but what I was going to say, after that, I took a year out. I looked after my baby and all that, and then I thought, right, time to get back to work, and I did. And I absolutely loved it. It was like the best design job I ever had, because I had a manager who she was a mom who she didn't work the full week, but I found that she was very emotionally intelligent, and that's pretty much what you need in a manager. So she always kept the peace in the office. And made sure everyone knew what they were doing. Everyone had the right amount of workload. If anybody was overstressed with work, she'd share. She sort of delegated to somebody else. I ended up getting made redundant again because there was a lack of business. So that's what pushed me into freelancing, because I approached the company and I said, well, you still got customers. Do you want me to work for you on a freelance basis? And that's what I did for like 5 years. I was working from home. I went days without like changing out my pajamas. I was like, hell, I've got nowhere to go. I'm a fashion designer who sits in their pajamas all day long doing work.
You really should do a comic about that, even if it's just a one-line gag, because honestly, that's hysterical. give her like cheese, like honestly, and the ultimate weapon of mass destruction in there. The food choice is cheese doodles, and there's just like this like these orange streaks everywhere. Fashion designer.
I'm a fashion designer, and I'm like the least fashionable person.
Yeah, exactly. It might be hilarious.
The irony,
Actually, yes, I think it works.
It's like I'm sat there with still bedhead and.
Listen, you got your makeup kind of half dripping off, and like there's might be a trace of mascara from like a couple days ago, but that's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, kudos to you for wanting to do freelance. It is very liberating, but one thing you miss is the consistency of the income that comes through. You have to sort of really be strong-minded and also very organized with your finances to be able to sort of maintain it.
Well, I'm about to go do some temp work, like some action. I'm going back to my day job was what I was doing prior to that for a few. We'll just say for a stint of time, because I'm kind of in your boat. It's like once I get everything I want, I'm failing. Like that's pretty much I'm done. I'm so done working for people.
Yeah.
But I also realized too that I'm going to take this time when I go back, wherever long I'm back, I'm going to also take advantage of giving myself. I'm going to train myself in a couple other things. So if I do have to temp again, I don't go back to that. I can do other things. I'm in a situation where my expenses are actually relatively cheap. The thing about that is, right? The thing about that for me is, what I have to do this time around to make sure that I don't go back is I got to eliminate all the things that are beyond my control right now that should not be beyond my control, and I got to bring them into my control. Because if I do that, I can make this work. I already know where my niche is.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I think is a big thing. I actually, here's the thing that hit me really like dumb. I've been interviewing people for 20 years, and I couldn't for the life of me for the first 6 months doing this figure out what my niche was. It's like because it was just literally right in my face what I should be doing with myself. It's like, you should just be interviewing people. That's what you do anyway, right? And I
do find you really insightful and really philosophical, and you're a great conversationalist, which is pretty much the characteristics you need to hold some really, really good interviews.
And we've had a pretty good interview so far. I mean, I've learned a lot about you, whether you realize it or not, right? Just having this conversation.
Yeah.
But again, I had to go. Now, I had some of the other things I did. I'm happy I did them, because it made me more well-rounded with what I'm doing, what I want to do. But now I have this giant master plan in my head.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I should be doing, what I should have been doing.
Yeah.
What I love about freelancing, this is the thing I love about freelancing now, you don't need permission. And that's honestly the two things I would tell anyone getting into freelancing are this. You have to be able to discipline yourself. That's tricky. You're going to fail sometimes, because again, we're human beings. We don't
have to respect your deadlines.
That's never been my issue. That's never been my issue. I have other issues, but right. But
well, the deadlines that you set for yourself, if it's somebody else's deadline, you respect those. But
exactly. Once you respect yourself, you sometimes you don't bat.
Yeah, I'll just carry on watching The Boys for a bit longer.
I haven't. I am not cool enough for Netflix. I can't do it. Not because so for me, the show that convinced me I am not mature enough for it was Kill la Kill.
No, I haven't watched that.
Okay, it's a Japanese. It's a solid manga show, anime show.
Mm-hmm.
Solid. It's not good, but when you binge the whole thing in one night, you right with your buddy, and you just watch it, just get eaten to nothing. You recognize that maybe, just maybe, this would be too much of a distraction for you.
Yeah.
And that maybe you shouldn't. Like, okay, when this was when Daredevil season 1 was up, so this was a while ago. Mm-hmm. Daredevil season 1 was great. It's a fantastic show. Getting it all night, falling into that, it's like, okay, this is a damn good show. I'm going to get a really good payoff, which you did. That's what season 1 in particular is amazing. But when it's Kill la Kill, not Daredevil, that you're binging, you might have I have this thing as when I get into something I really, really like. It's almost like an obsession.
Yeah.
So I have to be like. That's why I don't do what is it? World of Warcraft. I can't do it. If I do it, I mean, at that point, I figure out how to just turn it into a streaming service. I develop some personality and hope to God people watch me and I get paid for it because I will be doing nothing else. Right? That's my nature, and I recognize that that's a big thing. So in my author bios, I am actually do say I'm not mature enough for Netflix, and I'm never be mature enough for Netflix. Right?
Sort of. What do I do? I think I try to be selective. If I don't just watch anything. I'm just really selective. But also, I'm conscious that I don't want to be constantly wasting my time just doing one thing. So I multitask. So if I'm doing the ironing, that's a great time to have the streaming on. So you don't feel like you want to lose the will to live. It actually encourages you to iron more. Does anybody have any more ironing to do? I've got another episode to watch.
Then we got anything else that needs to be done, like now, and probably your kids are looking at you. Probably your kids are looking at you, kind of like, "Mom's being weird again." She could just watch the show.
They're used to me being weird.
What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, right?
If I'm not being weird and embarrassing, then there's something wrong with me. Mom, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
So do you do terrible dad jokes too? Do you do terrible?
No, I think what happened was I've been banned from ever doing the floss because apparently I don't do it right. It was Christmas last year, and my son had done his little stage production with his class where they had to wear Christmas jumpers. And I even sent him in with this silly Christmas hat where it actually has a beard attached to it. It's a white beard. So I just stood outside her classroom window wearing this Christmas hat with a white beard and just stood there staring at her. The entire class thought it was hilarious, except for her. She came out and she refused to talk to me. She's like, "Mom, you were embarrassing." It's like, well, all your friends thought it was funny.
This was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I just stood there
just being you. Didn't care.
It's how to make your kids feel uncomfortable and put them on the spot.
So when your daughter turns about 28 years old, she's gonna get it. That's when it will sink in with her. Yeah. Oh, my mom had it right. We all just get this way, right? We all,
we all go a bit loopy.
Well,
I think it's a case of being in touch with your inner child.
Yeah, no. Actually, I agree with you. I actually can there comes a point. Again, something we said earlier. I look at where I am in terms of my openly giving a shit about anything, and I don't.
Yeah.
Right. I just don't. And it's so liberating. It gives me a weird, right? It's so liberating because I don't, you can't guilt me, you can't shame me, you can't do any of that. Like, none of that crap's going to work on me. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, right? I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And if you like it, great. If you don't like it, also great.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I think it's so important not to let people get in your head if they don't agree with what you're doing, that you have to have the courage of your convictions, that if you believe in something, just keep focused, keep at it. Don't let the naysayers get you down and stop you from achieving the things that you want to do or the things that are going to make you happy, because you know yourself better than anyone else. And even if it's your parents saying, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. It's like, no, if you feel that this is right for you and this is what's going to make you happy, this is what you're good at, then you just go for it. Because there's so many times where I've made decisions that were pretty, when I look back and I think that was the wrong decision, and I think back, why did I make that decision? Because I was trying to please somebody else other than myself. I won't name names, my mom, but yeah.
I heard you.
It's like, Ma, you so don't get it. So I'll tell you what, let's not have this conversation. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And it'd be on my head be it if it's wrong.
Well, it's not even that. You got to live your life. Like your, all due respect to your parents, they lived their lives.
Yeah.
And they made their own mistakes. And I get somewhere they're coming from too. You don't want your kids to make your mistakes.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're going to make at least some of your mistakes, because it's just of how, again, you raised them. They're going to get your good and your bad. That's the way it is. You did raise them. But at the same time, there's going to come a point where your kid's going to go, Mom, I got to live my life. And they're right. They're absolutely right. And you have to be, or in my case, Dad, I'm going to have to live your life. I'm going to live my life. It's like, yes, you're going to have to live your life. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be, because you got your own life to live. At the end of the day, if you got to look at your own life and go, am I happy in the struggles I have chosen to pursue? Yes or no. If you're happy with that, you're good. Doesn't matter how far you get. Success and failure are, the journey is actually far more important than the destination. The older I get, the more I realize that's actually very true. You want to succeed, don't get me wrong, and honestly, nothing builds you quite like your successes. Failures are good for you too. The reality of the situation is, though, it's your effort at the end of the day that's going to determine one way, like whether you're happy or not. If you did everything you set out to do, you tried to do everything you set out to do, whether you got there or you didn't, but you at least said, I gave it my honest God effort, right? You'll live with it.
Yeah, absolutely, because they're your decisions. You're accountable for your actions, and you've got no one to blame other than yourself, which I think is the best way forward. I think one thing that I do find is that sometimes my parents don't always listen to what it is that I need. Even when I'm telling them I'm not happy about something, they're not hearing me. All they're hearing is, well, if it's good enough for me, then it should be good enough for you. Why aren't you happy? There's something wrong with you. Not, okay, if you're not happy with it, then do what you need to do to make your circumstances better. So that would be the advice I would give my kids. I would try to listen to what it is that they need to achieve and help them get to where they want to go, rather than throw at them this prescription for how you should live your life, and you have to follow it. No, I don't. Not in this day and age. So that's the struggle that I have.
Mhm. No, we all have that. Like that's a big part of life. Like it's not about even with your parents. Like look, here's the thing. This is the thing we also have to recognize that since we are getting old, there's going to come a point when the world's going to recede us.
Hmm.
Right? We're not going to care about how the world works anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to be content with how it works for us.
Yes.
When we get to that point, there's a blessing to that. Again, there's a when you get to the older you get, the more bulletproof you become. Not because you can't die, but rather because you've lived your life and you don't have you've done everything behind you. There's not much left in front of you. It's like just bring it, whatever. That's whatever you bring at me. It doesn't matter whether I've done my life. You have to live the best life you know how to live. Like you got right, and you've done that. You have to give your kids and their kids the freedom to do the same thing. And if you can remember that, if you can absolutely remember that, you'll be a great parent. Because really, you can give advice like you have life experiences. This is why this didn't work for me, right? And you got to be honest about that, right?
Yeah.
And even as something I've noticed even with both my parents and my grandparents on all sides, right? They all have flaws as people, and that's the other thing too. You recognize that as you get older, that your parents aren't perfect, that your grandparents aren't perfect, that your uncles and aunts they made the decisions they thought were best for them for whatever reason. They did what they wanted to do, whatever the reason was, right? And sometimes it went right. Sometimes it was awesome. Sometimes you look at them and you're like, what are you doing? But it's their life, and you have to give them the freedom to live it, and just like they have to in turn give you that freedom. And you gotta fight for that with your parents sometimes.
Yeah, I think I find it's easier for them to interfere because I'm on my own. If I did have a partner, I think they'll be less intrusive, or maybe. Well, I had a chat with my sister, and she's like, "How often do you speak to mom?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe 2-3 times a week." She's like, "Are you kidding me?" She's like, "I only speak to her like once every two weeks or something." And I was like, "Now that's where you're going wrong."
Well, no. There's like space is good. Like
Yes.
space is good. Space is actually good.
Because what it is, you need that space. So because if I'm talking to her too often, I do find then she starts, grilling me like, so what are you doing this? What are you doing with that? What's you just so she's kind of crossed that line. Whereas if you create a sense of a space, it's kind of you're giving a summary of what's happened in the 2 weeks rather than the past 2 days. You're going to get into a whole lot more detail, which they really shouldn't. They're on a need to know basis. And they really don't need to know.
Exactly.
They don't need to know the nitty gritty details of your life because they can get really judgmental.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, there comes a point where it's like you gotta be willing to say, I'm going to live my own life. I mean, like currently, I'm currently in an interesting spot where, again, when I'm back home, I'm kind of with my family during the pandemic, and it's been weird. I've been deliberately conscious to keep certain boundaries up.
Yes.
Because I recognize, number one too, and this is the flip side too. This is the other part of the coin. They have their own lives as well, and I'm not a little kid anymore.
Yeah.
And so they don't have to raise me anymore. They're still they're always going to be your parents.
Yeah.
But they're people too. So actually the space is also good for them too, because they get to live their own lives how they want to live.
Yeah.
Right? What you want, you give them what they want too. And then sometimes you confront them on their shit. And that's hysterical sometimes. Right? Because you can see it, right? When you were younger, you didn't necessarily see it, but when you get older,
yeah.
right, and it's hilarious, I confronted one of them about, they confronted me about something that they do all the time. And it's like, okay, you know,
It's like, do as I say, but not as I do.
kind of to some degree, yeah. So to some degree, so it's like kind of one of those things where you just looked at that. It's like, really, okay, fair enough, all right. I mean, but that's the thing. We're different. The relationship is different when you're adults, right? It's no longer. It's still to some degree, there's always going to be some degree of parent to kid, but it's a lot more equal. It's adult to adult. It's no longer. It's no longer I'm the kid that needs direction. I know what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah.
Right. It's they're like, okay. So they got, I mean, that they respect, like, okay, you do what you feel you got to do. They got to give you that space. But at the same time though, it's like, and this the final like point for them sometimes too. Your parents have been around 60, 70 years. Now, some things they don't always see because they're not, again, the world has preceded them to some degree, but they still have 60, 70 years of a lifetime of experience. And some of what they see other things you don't because of how they're raised. So you can always learn from them a little bit.
Yeah. Too. No, I totally respect that they've got experience. It's just, like you said, sometimes I feel like they're talking to me more as a kid rather than actually talking to me as an adult who is in their 40s. Giving away now.
Oh no, I knew exactly. I know exactly.
Oh, yeah, you are, right?
So I'm not. That's why I was very good to play along. Like I said, throat punch, no throat punches.
No, it's fine. I don't even care.
No, but you made it fun. I'm not going to ruin your game at this point. I'm not going to do that, right?
You know, the funny thing is, what was it? I was getting a gym membership and I had my induction, and this poor guy, he looked like he was 21 and he seemed really keen, and I just thought, you know what, I've really kind of got to set him straight. And so I mentioned, I was like, yeah, you know, like for someone of my age, you know, and I said how old I was, and I was like, and it's like, just think about it, I can pretty much be your mom. And he just looked at me like all hope faded.
Yeah, well,
and to be honest, I mean, I don't mind. What was it? It was what, a difference of 23 years. I mean, yeah, you know, like I don't mind it if it's a few years, but when it's 23 years, it's like, you know, you're closer to dating my kids.
I have a
when they're over 18, let's just, but yeah,
I've on my end, I kind of look at it like this. They're like, yeah, 21's a bit young. Like 21's a bit young. I'm 39. Like,
it's like they've still not experienced life. It's when you talk to them, and I think probably I can understand maybe how my parents see me, like because I'm that much far away from them in terms of age. So when I look at somebody who's 21, I still see somebody who's still very young and inexperienced. And but when you're in your 40s, it's kind of, you've kind of got a bit of a clue now. You should have the respect that you're kind of, you kind of slightly got it figured out. You can always, there's always room for improvement.
There's I'm not sure I have it. I get more confused as I get older about figuring it out. Actually, I'm not more sure. I'm less sure. Right. I've interviewed plenty of people, and one of the things I've learned is that everybody sees the universe differently. Yeah. And that's actually a great thing. It's a wonderful thing, because it makes the world what it is. It's not the fact that we're the same in one very key way. We all bring our own perspective to the world. And I think that's an amazing commonality we all share. We all see the world differently. We all have a voice in the world that is truly just us. And that's an amazing thing. I think on the flip side, that also means, though, that that I cannot judge anybody's shoes that they walk, right? It means that also that maybe the way they see it, the way they see it works for them. And it's not that I'm denying that there's a truth or a God or anything like that, but I just come to the conclusion that, you know what? The older I get, the less sure I am I have any clue how this all works. I just know that I'm here. I'm still here. And I know what I want to do. And I know who I am. So I've just got to that. I'm going to live and let live. And the rest is 42. That's it. Because I don't. I'm a big enough man to admit that I don't know. And that's
well, it's true. We don't always know all the answers, and we're just trying to sort of get by with the knowledge that we have, or with it kind of with the philosophy. Everyone has their own personal philosophy. Everyone has a natural moral compass as well. I'm a big believer in karma. If you do good, good will come back to you. If you're going to do something bad, expect that to come back and bite you in the ass. And that's what I teach my kids. And so I think like I don't have any problems with anyone unless there are people out there who deliberately go around, deliberately are horrible to people, and I think that's just really uncalled for. There's no need to be like that. So I like people who can be sort of, how should I say? I mean, sort of, I've come across misogynists. I've come across people who, are xenophobes. And I just feel like, why are you like that? What is it that happened that got you to be such a person that can be really horrible to others, especially myself? And it also goes back to the control. The one thing that's so precious is feeling like you have control. When you lose that control, when somebody's threatening towards you, you feel like you've lost control, you've lost that sense of security, and then you can't help but be judgmental towards that person. I'm just sort of referring to a personal experience that I had, and I had to really sort of get past it and just say, live and let live. Maybe it's nothing personal. They're just going through a rough time, and I've just got to let it go, because I can't let it keep eating at me and wondering why the person doesn't like me at all. In terms of just being civil and saying hello, or so yeah.
I was just going to say, so I learned a long time ago, you're well aware of this life lessons, that you're not really in control of much in this life. Like, really, you're not. The only thing you really have an answer to in this life is what actions, some degree you control what actions you do based on the circumstances handed to you, right? But by and large, really, all you really have are the choices you make based on whatever happens in life. I find life has its own rules of how it's going to work. Like, what's going on right now is, to me, complete insanity. No matter which side of the fence you're on, right? It's insanity both ways. There's no. This will go down, I think, as the cruelest year I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, right, and it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. I have seen nothing but abject cruelty. Right? There's been bullying. There's been fights over nothing really, and instead of taking this opportunity to talk about the really big issues, we decided that we would rather fight each other than deal with the bigger issues. And I could be really, really, really mad about that. Or I can. So, hey, Annas, you want to come on my podcast and make an ass of yourself for an hour? You want to talk about stuff that really matters to you, what you care about, what's important to you. you want to tell your story? Because I think that makes a bigger difference in the world than people realize. And I would rather do that and spread that message and that hope than calling somebody selfish because they don't wear a mask, or call somebody, a sheeple because they are wearing a mask, or I don't see what that accomplishes on any level. Right.
Well, it goes back to being negative, or sort of not bringing anything positive to the fold. And so I think it's refreshing to be able to have like this in-depth conversation with somebody that I've only just met 2 days ago, because these are kind of when you're a creative, you don't always get to meet people that are like you. It's sort of not everyone. I think creatives are very deep thinkers. They're they're daydreamers, and they've got a massive imagination. And having done the comic, I just feel like it's so nice that I've been able to meet like-minded individuals that are also in the same boat, and they kind of, they've got this profound view on life, and they're happy to talk about it. Whereas I met so many people just as acquaintances because they were friends of my late husband, and it was more like superficial chit chat. Hi, how are you? And honestly, I could feel myself just being bored and retreating into my imagination, because I wasn't getting much from it.
Well, the circumstance.
And I sound like a snob, I know.
No. Actually, do you want to know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. Okay, it's not. You're not being a snob. Here's the difference. Your husband died. That's a terrible thing, right? But let's get beyond this. Oh, you poor bitch. Wait. Hear me out here. Who are you? They're meeting you not based on anything you've achieved. They're trying to do the right nice thing by trying to console you, because it's a terrible loss. But you're not doing anything constructive with that. There's nothing. There's nothing there that's like, hey, you're great. Comic, on the other hand, oh my God, you created something from nothing. That's awesome. How did you do it? It's a much different space. How did you do it? Something terrible happened to you. The other, you shined. People like you, right? That's the difference. It's not that you're being snobby. It's the fact that, okay, we're talking because you're creatively awesome. And also, you have a good sense of humor, because you've been able to put up with me for an hour. But the thing about that is, right? We're talking because you're striving to achieve things. You're going for things in life. You've got kids you're proud of, right? You've done a lot on your own, and your parents drive you crazy. But name a kid that doesn't, right? You drive your kids crazy sometimes. But that's right. But that's normal. Yeah. Right?
It's absolutely true that what you're saying, that these acquaintances that I had, they knew me through my husband. So it was basically, they were the wives and the girlfriends of his friends. Yeah. So when I did lose him, it's like we had no longer had that connection of my husband being there. They also always looked at me with pity and just saw me as the widow, the poor widow. That's it. That's all I was seeing. And I was in London. I just decided enough's enough. I'm not going to drive for an hour to go to this kid's party for me to stand there and not speak to anybody because people are too scared to come up and talk to me. I just felt like these are the wrong people to be around. And it was no disrespect to them. They just didn't know how to handle me. I just wanted to be treated normally. And I think it was just, they were dealing with the loss and they just didn't know how to sort of treat somebody who'd gone through that loss.
Yeah,
And at all. They're not creatives. There's so I just decided, you know, I'm just gonna pack up and move back to Manchester, which is where sort of most of my family live, and just start fresh. So yeah, I just and it, like I said, it's refreshing when I meet people like yourself, and it's so nice to have this really interesting conversation, because it's an art. Not everyone can have a really in-depth conversation. I think sometimes people are too scared to divulge, or maybe they just don't feel like they've got much to contribute, or I don't know what it is.
Again, going back to something we said earlier, look at what you've achieved. Mm-hmm. And I bring this up because you know who you are. You've been forged in some fires, so you're tougher than a lot of people.
Yes, I'm Daenerys Claiborne, who's just come out of the fire with the dragon's eggs.
yeah, but I mean, you're a single mom, which means you're tougher than I am. Like I said, that's why I said I was trying to protect myself earlier. No throat punches or anything like that, because you're a mom. Moms are vicious, man. They can be very vicious, like, right? They can be.
Yeah, it's like don't threaten my kids, you know.
Well, no.
Yeah, it's like we've got this the protective mentality, but yeah, no.
See, I'd rather get into a fight with a guy than a girl. I believe. I'd rather, because here's the deal. If you kick my ass,
you can't get back.
Kick my ass, you won't stop. The guy, I'll be on the ground. I'll be on the ground and unconscious. It's like, okay, you've had enough, right?
Are you like, from personal experience?
I have a sister. She So again, I also grew up like my grandmother is one of the strongest women I know. And up until like maybe about 5 years ago, she was the only person I ever dreaded being punched by, right? Yeah. Because she even grew up. She raised her brother. She raised her sons, and then there's me. I couldn't get away with shit because she already had like six boys before. So I was like, I was number 7. I was lucky. I wasn't gonna get away with shit. So I mean, that's just the way it was, right? And so the thing about it is, like, I respect tough women because I've grown up with tough women, and I joke and I tease and all that stuff. But I also know, like, you've been through shit. You've had to have just to be to where you're at. So you know who you are. You know what you want. You know what you're supposed to do in this life, and you're doing it to the best of your ability. There's a confidence you carry about yourself that not everybody has earned. All right, and then what I mean by that is you've fought for everything you've had. You've had to.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, so you know.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't have anything handed to me on a silver platter. Everything I've achieved, I've fought for, and sometimes most of the time it is tiring, but you've got to roll with the punches, if you pardon the pun.
Well, absolutely. No punches. Forget.
Roll with the punches that life serve you, and you've just gonna plow on and just try to. Like, a lot of the times you will be in that dark tunnel and there's no light there, and you are just stuck in the darkness, and then you just got to be patient, because you'll end up with that flicker of light, and that's where that's where you need to be going to get yourself out of the woods, so to speak.
Well, you got to roll. Like I mean, I gave myself 1 year to be a freelancer. Okay, 1 year. All right. Now I figured out my master direction, my master plan. We're gonna see how this goes for the next 5 months.
Yeah.
But regardless of what happens next, like, I've rolled the punches. I'm not depressed. I'm not upset or anxious, or there's no anxiety. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, I'm good with it. If it does work out, I'm good with it too. Like, I'm at that Zen state in my life where it's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Yeah. And I'm going to keep doing it until I either get what I want or I'm in the grave.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's that's it. I mean, that's all there is to it. I give no shits, right?
Yeah.
And
It does
so,
sound like you found the zen within yourself, because that's the most important thing, that you are content with where you're at and what you're doing and what goal you're trying to achieve. And if it, just to make you feel better, I think after I moved up to Manchester, I lived with my parents for about a year. So
yeah. No, no,
I took over about 3 rooms with my stuff.
Oh,
That my mum could not wait to usher me out. Here, you forgot 3 boxes in the garage. Okay, chill. It's not like you're using the garage.
Yeah, but it's not anymore. It's something else now. It's more precious. No, I made this decision because it's just like I had to try, right? And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
right, and you've done it, and the reason like I can have this conversation with you is, again, we connect on just like we're on the right wavelengths. Regardless of what happens, where we go and what we do, we both have been through a similar road, right? Except for the parenting thing. That is completely, I haven't done that yet. And I don't, I think I'd be a good dad someday, but I'm not sure that, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. If it does, I'll do the best I can. If it doesn't, okay too. I'm kind of in that, if it comes, I just hope it's with the right people. That's kind of what I hope with, right?
Yeah.
I've seen too many, I've seen it when the relationships have been amazing, and I've seen it when the relationships have been terrible. And I would rather be in the good than the bad. I don't want to be stuck with something I'd rather not have. So, I mean, that's a tricky one. But life's too short. You've got to do the things that matter to you.
Oh, absolutely. I think, we're living in a time where we don't have to live to prescriptions. We don't have to live to a prescribed life. I'll bring my brother into as an example. My brother, he got married, and for 4 years he was in an emotionally abusive relationship where she was very controlling, and she was a nightmare, and he kept quiet about it because she basically said to him, you shouldn't be discussing your marital problems with your family, and it will be questioning his manhood if he was. And so for 4 years, there was so much going on that he didn't tell us about it until one day something happened, really, really bad happened. And she called me up and started asking me questions about my brother's mental health and all sorts of things, and accused him of something. And I just thought, you know what, this is like, it said more about her than it did about my brother. And I know my brother very well, and there was no question of him being accountable or to blame. All I saw is somebody who was very manipulative, very controlling, very sadistic, and she had her whole family behind her. My brother called me, and I said to him, get out now. So he actually physically just grabbed a bag full of clothes and got out. And it was like he had Stockholm syndrome, and I had to talk him off a ledge of going back to her. But she was toxic, so toxic. Now he is in his 40s. He is having the time of his life. He's not in a relationship with anybody. Or he loves to run, and he's found the love of his life, which is running. Mm-hmm. And you should see, it's crazy. He's got wall to wall, walls of medals and running numbers, and it's so wonderful to see him so happy, having found this passion in his life. And it doesn't have to be a person. And he said to me, you don't have to. It's not sort of where does it say that you have to meet somebody and have kids and settle down? You can, he's just happy enjoying life. And he said this world is too messed up to bring kids into this world anyway, and we're overpopulated. So
But and there's about the ability to. I look at it like this: everybody has to make their own decisions on what makes them happy. And I think the biggest challenge most of us make in this have to figure out in this life is how do we do that for ourselves, with being honest and authentic with ourselves.
Yeah.
Because when we cheat, that's usually when there's problems, right? So and that's when people just when they get away from simplicity, I find, and try to take what they seem is the easier route.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's always the easy route is to do what's expected of you, and the harder route is doing something a little bit different, and it could be potentially controversial because not everyone is going to agree with it. So like, do what's right for you. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what fits for you.
Well, and we're gonna have to wrap this interview up here very shortly. I think we've had it. I don't get me wrong. I love doing this. Actually, when I get to the point where I officially make this a talk show, I would love to have you back. I hope you don't mind coming back.
Absolutely.
But thank you for being such a wonderful test subject for this. But
and thank you for having me on. It's been really enjoyable, and you've put some things into perspective for me.
That's good.
Especially my time and my patience.
It's the hardest thing as you get older. As you get older, patience especially is the hardest thing, right? Because it's such a thing. But I was gonna do. Man, I lost my thought there for a second. Give me a second. Let's see if I can find my thought again. If I can't, we'll get to the wonderful plugs and stuff so people can find you and just do your thing. No, I lost the thought. Shit, that's okay. It'll come to me after I watch this. After I watch this later. But what I wanted to say is, I enjoyed this chat. What we should do, we should probably talk about your comic at some point. So this is a good spot to plug your stuff, right? Right.
Yeah.
But we should. I will. Oh, I know what I was going to say. What I was going to say for you. Right. Good luck with your career.
Thank you, and you too as well.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for you. I've got a lot of respect for people who follow their niche.
Yeah, I think this is my niche. I think I do this quite well. But before I wrap, and I haven't seen your comic yet. Other than I've seen some pictures that look awesome, but I actually got to actually read your comic at some point. So why don't you tell people about what you're doing, you're reading, what you're putting together? If you have a Kickstarter, and maybe what you're doing for 101 Tales, so that way Mog, when she sees this, doesn't beat me.
Yeah, so I'm the writer and creative director for Ava. It's a collaboration between me and an illustrator called Timothy Green II. He's done a lot of work for DC and Marvel and a whole load of projects. He's well known with some people.
I know.
You know him. Okay, good. So basically the idea for Ava was taking all the things that I loved growing up, which was sci-fi, dance movies. I'm a big fan of Blade Runner and Tron as well. And I grew up watching Star Trek and Quantum Leap, and it was kind of when I wanted to write my story where it was kind of like a take on humanity and where we're going with it, and setting it in the future. So, and I just love Back to the Future, especially when they go into the future. So it was just having fun with it, and so Ava's cyberpunk sci-fi set in the 23rd century. It's kind of like a world that's been raised from the ashes. There's not as many people as there used to be. They've gone through an apocalyptic moment, and you'll find out later what happened to sort of have a completely revised vision of what the world is. And Ava, she's a bioengineer, and she works for this lab, and she's trying to cure degenerative brainstem disease. But the governing body, which is like pretty much like Facebook, who watches your every move, they have other ideas for her work. And so it's about her and her fight against the establishment and fighting against the constraints that they set upon you. And it's also a lot of people think that pretty girls have it easy, but it's not the case. She I think she's a very strong character, and she's got a lot going for her, but she's also a little bit messed up inside, and I think it's her sense of self-worth that she struggles with. And so that's with the 101 Tales. What I'm going to be talking about is her evolution, how she started off, and how she evolved, and how she came into being in terms of sort of, there are essences of what I went through and what I kind of carried from my experience into her. So yeah, maybe it's just me living my life as a blonde pinup who's kick-ass.
Well, I mean, yeah, we definitely have another conversation. We do have another conversation in here. I will say this though. I do believe every person writes about the stories that are important to them. I feel for you that the story of how you found your own confidence is important to you.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's just an off the top.
I think it's a tale of finding your self-worth, and I think doing this comic, I gained that confidence in myself as a person, as a creative, and I've projected that through Ava. She needs to find her confidence and her self-worth, and she does mess up, but it's all about the glory is in the redemption, making things right.
No, absolutely. But it sounds to me like both of you, Ava and yourself, are well on your way. So I'm going to end the broadcast here. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit after. But broadcast is over, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening. This is not going to be the end of these. This is actually going to be the start. I got a big announcement I'm going to make here now, and that I'm turning Just Joshing the podcast into Just Joshing the talk show. This was an experiment, kind of to see how I was going to do things going forward. So that's why this wasn't a lot of fanfare, because if this had blown up in my face, or this had been like incredibly hostile, which it was anything but. You were a pleasure to chat to.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I'm very honored to be your test subject today.
Yeah, right. Test subject B, I think. Well, test subject A. Test subject A, right? So, but yeah, this is going to be more of the future, more of the future coming up. So stay tuned, and there's more to come.